Hello everybody. I posted this video like just a couple days ago, and there's a lady on Minds who doesn't like me. At least I assume she's a lady. For all I know, she's some neckbeard typing away feverishly in his mother's basement, but you know, whatever. When I posted this, she was reminded that I existed, and so she posted this. And because I'm maybe not as nice of a person as I would like to be, I thought it would be really cool to just kind of spar back and forth with her for a little while, because I've dealt with this lady before. That's what this whole video was about. Like, she's insane, and she doesn't like me because I exist, and so she tries to rile me up. And the thing is, I don't think she realizes that I just like fighting people. So anyway, I responded like this. And then, you know, because she wasn't to be outdone, she responded with this. And I was gonna make a short making fun of her because I thought that would be fun. I was like, I'm gonna poke some fun at this bitch. I'm gonna get some laughs out of this bitch right here. And then I just kind of lost my enthusiasm for it. It was just kind of like, I was like giggling away. I was like, I'm gonna have some fun with this. And then after a moment or two, it was just kind of like, oh my God, like, it just kind of struck me how seriously fucked up the situation was. And so I thought I'd talk about that for a little bit. So let's address what she said first of all.
You caught me. Sometimes when I see headlines about trannies abusing their children, I do think about you. And then I start thinking about how CPS should take your children away from you. But that's about the extent of thought I put your way.
Winking face. How cute. That's a pretty fucked up thing to say to anybody. I mean, unless you genuinely truly believe that their children should be taken away and you have some pretty goddamn good reasons, you probably shouldn't be like just saying that to people, but it's the internet. So of course she's saying that to me and anybody else who will listen. And it's not that she thought about me because she saw a headline. It was that I posted something on Minds and she saw me and immediately thought, ooh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to poke at oak leaves and onions and see if I can get a reaction. Which, I mean, I was all up for sparring. I really was. And then I just kind of, I lost my hate boner, you guys. It went away. I'm sorry. This has never happened to me before. It's kind of embarrassing.
Part 2. I'm pretty sure I never bothered with calling you ugly. Your physical appearance doesn't matter to me at all. I do think you're shallow and vain, probably highly self-centered. But if you ever get the idea in your teeny tiny mind again, please review point 1.
Okay, for the record, she totally did. And I have proof. But, hello. Hello. Hi. Yes, I'm making a video. Context is important. I love you. Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, for the record, she totally did. For the record, she totally did multiple times. Let's see. I think you're shallow and vain. Okay. Probably highly self-centered. You know, this is like the guy. I had one guy who started messaging me a bunch, like on YouTube, and he kept on telling me that I was a narcissist, and he knew, he was very sure of it. He knew I was a narcissist because he had studied psych in college, like during his bachelor's for like 3 years. And so he knew a narcissist when he saw one. My dad has a PhD in psychology, and he had some very choice feelings towards people who were, you know, working on their bachelor's in psych and thought that they knew everything about psych. He had some very strongly held feelings, which he occasionally expressed to us kids. It's like, you don't know anything when you have a bachelor's. And I really believe it. Like, psych is complicated. I see all sorts of people posting videos about like, oh, if you want to understand a woman's psychology, this is how you do it. And it's like, just buy this little teeny thin pamphlet and you're going to know everything you need to know. It's like, if human beings were that simple, like if we were that straightforward, that easy to understand, why is it that there are people who spend years and years and years getting like a doctorate studying human psychology? And not just one branch of human psychology. There are like multiple branches of human psychology that people study, and different schools of thought on human psychology that people are studying. And like, I mean, some of it really is hogwash. I'll be the first person to be like, yeah, some of it's just bullshit. But that's a lot to study. And you would think that it wouldn't be effectively boiled down into just a teeny little pamphlet. But there's like tons of people out there who are like, oh, you know a little bit, you know everything. It's like, okay, yeah, good luck with that. So yeah, this guy, he kept on telling me like, oh, you're a narcissist. You're a narcissist. I know a narcissist when I see one. You're a narcissist. Kind of reminds me of my my therapist who was like, you're bipolar. I know bipolar when I see it. I have 33 plus years of experience, or 33 years of experience, or whatever the fuck. It's like, she still couldn't pick out a person with bipolar disorder. Like, I obviously don't have it. And I mean, I tried really hard to convince myself I had it because I wanted to get better. And it's like, I'll do anything at this point. Yeah, no, didn't have bipolar disorder at all. So that didn't work out so well. If she's got 30 plus years of experience, this guy's got like 3 whole years of college, getting his bachelor's degree. I don't know if he even managed to graduate with the bachelor's degree, but he is dead confident that I have narcissism. So finally he sends me this online test that you can take. That's that to diagnose yourself with narcissism, or to get an idea whether you had narcissism. And I went and looked it up, and sure enough, it was a legitimate test that you can take yourself to determine whether or not you have a high probability of having narcissism. So first of all, most narcissists don't have a very good track record when it comes to treatment, because most narcissists don't believe that they're narcissists. And yeah, so you got to convince them that they have a problem to begin with, which they're not going to want to believe. And then you have to convince them that they have to change themselves, which they're not going to want to do. And so therapy with narcissists is definitely an uphill battle. But I'm sitting there looking at this online screening, and sure enough, I mean, it's a legitimate online screening. It's like, well, I mean, it was the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. I was bored. I was all alone. And dude, like, sure. I think I was pregnant. I was pregnant with this little guy right here. And so I was like, I mean, I have nothing better to do. I'll take the screening and see what it says, So the way the screening was laid out, there was, the red zone where it's like, if you scored this high, you're a narcissist. And then there's kind of this neutral green zone that takes up a majority of the space. So green zone, red zone over here. And in the green zone, which was much bigger than the red zone, there's this little teeny section where it's like, most normal people fall in here. And then there's a little space over to the side, just kind of an empty 0 score. And then there's all this space in between normal people and a narcissist. So there's a pretty wide gap between those two. And I mean, I'm sure there are people who fall in the middle, but, occasionally people do have just narcissistic tendencies, but not full-blown narcissism. So I take the test. I go through the screening. I answer all the questions as honestly as I can, because, I mean, it's the middle of the night. I've got nothing better to do. And I want to get an honest, I mean, what's the point of wasting time taking a screening if you're not going to give them like the most brutal honesty that you can? And so I'm trying, and my problem with screenings a lot of these times is I overthink it. And so I read the question and then I think, okay, what is this question actually trying to determine? Because I mean, my dad, when I was a kid, I used to put together intake papers for my dad's practice. Because like I was a little kid, and it was just, you take one of these sheets, you take 2 of these sheets, one of these sheets, and one of these sheets, and then you staple it in the corner. And so he'd print out like all these different screenings, and I take one of these sheets, 2 of these sheets, one of these, and then I put them all in a little pile and then staple them. And then he would give them to his patients as intake papers. And it was just a little chore to keep us kids busy. But I remember one of the screenings was really short, and so I decided to do the screening. Like, I asked him if I could. He was like, yeah, sure. And I did the screening, and it came back and said that I wasn't entirely honest. And I was like, what gives? I didn't lie on the screening. He's like, well, it says right here you did. And so then I checked the screening, and the one question that it says I wasn't completely 100% honest about, I have never shoplifted anything. At the time, I was like 11 years old. I had never shoplifted anything. Like, no. I mean, the thought had never even crossed my mind. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, it's telling me I'm being dishonest, but really I'm being perfectly honest. I'm just, the screening is asking a question that doesn't actually apply to me very well. You know, I mean, maybe it would be different as an adult, but like at the time, you know, if you ask an 11-year-old kid who's never shoplifted anything, have you ever shoplifted anything? And they answer you honestly, well, no, I never have. The test is going to say that the kid's a liar. So the psych screenings are, you know, iffy. But it was interesting. And so now whenever I take any kind of screening and I try really hard to kind of just shut my mind down and answer the question, like first thing that comes to mind, they always say, just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. So hard for me to do because I have to analyze every single damn question. And sitting there and I'm reading through these questions and it's like, I wonder what they're actually asking. And the question that I want to answer isn't the question they're asking me. Ultimately, the question I want to answer is the question they're trying to answer by asking me the question that they're asking me. So they're asking me, do you spend a lot of time looking in a mirror? And I'm wondering, okay, what are they getting out of asking me that question? What information am I giving them by answering that question in this way or that way or this other way? And so I tried to figure out, number one, how to answer as honestly as possible. Number two, what was my knee-jerk reaction? Because that's important. And number three, you know, if I'm being as self-aware as possible, what is the actual answer? So there's a self-report kind of bias, but then there's also, okay, if I take a step back and try to really think about it, do I actually do this thing? And I spent a bunch of time looking at the screening and trying really hard to be as honest as possible. And I hope I did a good job because it's hard for me to do screenings because I overthink them all the time. But it was the middle of the night, 2 a.m.-ish, and so like it wasn't like I was wasting time that I would have been spending doing something better, you know? I completed the screening and my score came back. And my score was, in fact, quite unusual. And that was interesting. And I'm looking at it as like, okay, this is weird. This is very weird. So like I said, there's the red zone where you've got people who are scoring as narcissists, and then there's this big open space over here. And then normal people kind of score like on this side, but there's this big empty space in between normal people and narcissists. And then on the other side of normal, there's this little teeny empty space where it's like, yeah, you know, this is just 0 to 10, and then normal people fall in a range from like 10 to 30 or something like that. You know, just that's how it's set up. The numbers are arbitrary. But anyway, when I finally checked my score, I didn't fall in the normal range at all. And I didn't fall in the red zone either. I fell all the way over at the opposite side next to the 0. I apparently less than the average person, I don't have much of a shit to give about what people think about me. Like, less of a shit to give than most people. And the only thing I can assume is that I have spent so much of my life being either solitary or socially isolated or traveling around the country that I just stopped giving a flying fuck about what anybody thought about me. I mean, I became an exotic dancer, so naturally there's this huge social stigma that I just picked up and said, this is going to be mine now. And yeah, there's so many people that hate me. And so taking that all back to this, I printed out her comment. You know, you are probably highly self-centered. You're shallow and vain. Lady, have you looked at my hair? Have you looked at my dress? Like, do I look like I'm trying to impress anybody? Like, are you impressed? You're cute. I don't think he's impressed.
You sure do project your own feelings onto other people a lot. It makes sense that you'd think bringing life into this world is something disgusting to be talked down about.
Once again, that's her making fun of me for being fat and ugly while I was pregnant. I'm just gonna leave this right here. I mean, she totally did, but okay, whatever. But projecting, I think is very funny. And then we get to point number 4.
You're mentally unwell.
Like she would know.
Your lifestyle is all about sex, and you force everyone around you, but most especially your children, to be involved in it. That's why you're disgusting.
All right, let's separate the internet from reality, because we have to do that now. I have a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is mostly about sex. My life is not my YouTube channel. I have 5 kids. You have probably noticed, if you watched many of my videos, that my kids aren't like a central feature in my YouTube videos. Do you ever wonder why that is? I mean, like if I wanted money, if I wanted attention, if I wanted clout, I could just take my kids and parade them around in front of a camera. They're absolutely freaking adorable. I mean, I know I'm biased, but I do think they're pretty freaking adorable. I could probably generate so many more clicks by having my parade of cute little babies, because I keep popping them out one after the other. I could stick cute little babies in front of YouTube for ages and probably generate so much revenue, so many clicks, so much whatever. Like, I could totally do that. And honestly, I mean, if I was getting a decent enough amount of money from it, I mean, I enjoy having new babies, so I could just keep on farming out new babies, and I could do that. I could totally do that. I could see myself doing that. But the thing is, have you ever noticed that I didn't do that? Now, I'm sure someone like her would look at that and think, okay, it's because she's all about sex and she doesn't really care about her kids. And for me, it's more of, I see how scummy the internet is because I meet people like her online, and I don't want my kids anywhere near people that fucked up. You know, they've asked, can we be on YouTube? I'm like, maybe when you're older. Maybe when you're older. If you want to, when you're older. And when they're older, if they really want to, I have a little file with all the screenshots of all the nice things people have said to me, because people have said some really fantastically nice things, like just some wonderful, heartwarming things that I really am grateful for. But there are some people who've said some despicable shit. Like, I mean, there was one guy who went through all my videos, and this was when I was using a different video platform, but he went through like all my videos and said, what was it? You're garbage, and I hope one day you're found in multiple trash bags. Basically dismembered, murdered, thrown in the garbage. Yeah. So when my kids are getting to that 18-ish age and, you know, they're about ready to start their own YouTube channel, I'm going to pull out my little file and be like, okay, there's highs and there's lows in this ride. So here are the highs and here are all the lows. Are you sure you want this? Until then, you're not really going to see much of my kids on my YouTube channel. Here's the thing that's amazing. My life is not the internet. My internet personality is not my life. I actually have a pretty strong degree of separation between those two things. I have hobbies that I don't talk about on the internet. And I don't mean like hobbies like risque hobbies that I can't talk about on the internet. I mean like... All right, folks. It is 11:30 at night, and I was just making these cookies for my kids for their school lunch for tomorrow, and then I need to clean the kitchen because it's a mess. The kids are in bed, so there's nothing to distract me. I'm probably going to listen to some music and get my cleaning done, and that way I'll be all ready to wake up tomorrow morning. You don't need to hear about that, folks. You don't need to hear about that. And that's her shtick. I'm realizing, like, I'm pretty certain, and I mean, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I seriously think that this lady, she just goes wandering around the internet looking for innocent people that she can accuse of heinous shit so that she can drum up a bunch of traffic for her little Minds account. And I mean, maybe she's like actually getting money for this shit, or she's just extraordinarily bored and she's a busybody and she just really wants the attention. And that's where we get more to the heart of what this video is about. People like this woman are the reason that I don't want to be a woman. And somebody brought up something really recently. Like I did a video on like why I don't want to be a woman, and they mentioned something that I thought was just so insightful. In the comments, thank you very much. There's the perception of what a woman is on the internet, and then there's the perception of what a woman is in reality. And it was just one of those aha kind of moments for me, like duh, but also wow, you know, that's so true. Because a woman on the internet is such a disgusting thing to be. And a woman in real life, you know, I've got female friends who are just awesome. And they're not these walking, talking, living, breathing automaton stereotypes that you keep seeing on the internet. It's like, oh, you're a human being and you're actually a pretty goddamn decent human being and I like you. But when you go on the internet, it's kind of like this idea of what a woman is, this distillation of like every gross, nasty, unpleasant thing that a woman is. It's just right there and everybody's like, oh, that's a woman. And then people treat me like I'm some sort of living personification of this nasty idea that they have of what a woman is supposed to be. And I mean, you do meet misogynistic people in real life who believe that the shit they saw on the internet is also the shit they see in real life. And it's like, oh, okay, so you just hate women. It's just that simple. You just hate women because we're women and because we exist. Kind of like this person hates me for existing. She's calling me a tranny all the time. Yes, I am that tranny faggot. And yes, I have been called a tranny faggot quite a lot. Partially thanks to her. I exist and therefore I am bad. I see women who do the kind of shit that she does. And I just don't like it. And so I'll give you an example. When I was watching, which election was it? It was like the 2016 elections. What year is it right now? It's 2024. Yeah, it was the 2016 elections. God, I feel old. Whoo. Anyway, it was the 2016 elections. Tensions were running a little high, and I was on Facebook before I just deleted Facebook and said the fuck with this. And there was this gal I knew who was an exotic dancer, and she was just making political post after political post after political post after political post. There was one day, like a bunch of neo-Nazis got doxxed. And she was just celebrating that these neo-Nazis had been doxxed. And I just looked at it, and at the time, like, she and a bunch of other people, they're like, well, they're neo-Nazis, this is awesome. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know, I understand that neo-Nazis are despicable people. I get it. And so a bunch of people that you perceive as despicable have been, you know, doxxed. And that's a good thing in your book. The thing that always bothers me is if you believe in justice, like if you're actually being really, really honest about justice in kind of a mathematical, numerical way, an injustice toward any individual or group of individuals, no matter how despicable they might be, is still an injustice. Like, we have an entire justice system to try and make sure that individuals who are being despicable or doing despicable things are then called to account for the things that they do that are despicable or unjust. And that those actions are then either corrected or somehow remedied. But this whole vigilante, let's just do nasty things to nasty people because they're nasty, I just look at that and think, it seems like such a slippery slope to me. It never sat right with me. It always bothered me. I always look at that and I think, you know, yeah, they're neo-Nazis. They're bad, okay? I get it. I get that they're bad. I'm not going to pretend they're not. But if we mistreat this one group of people and say it's okay, what other group of people are we going to mistreat and say, oh, it's okay? Like, how far down the line of people getting mistreated or having their rights stepped on that we're all looking and say, well, they're bad, so it's okay. How far down the line am I standing? Like, we're all in line. We're all going to the same place. Where's my spot in this line? You know, how many people are going to have to get mistreated because they're bad before it's my turn? And that kind of brings me back to, you know, my children should be taken away. Why? Why should my children be taken away? Oh, because I'm a tranny? Okay. You will notice the lack of transition. I never transitioned. I never wanted to transition. I never sought transition. Like, that was just never my thing. Now, do I eventually want to have something done with, you know, the twins here? I've been talking about it for years. I was talking about it back when I was a young stripper. It was like, sooner or later, I'm going to have to get some work done because gravity is a reality and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. I know, just because I'm a quote-unquote tranny, and I know some people think it's an offensive term. This is the term she keeps throwing at me. You know, just because I'm this other group, then I'm not human and I'm not deserving of human dignity or human rights or access to my own offspring because I'm part of this other group. And this is perfectly fine with her. And I'm looking at her, I'm thinking, number one, this is the reason that people go around saying, oh, these right-wingers are all full of hate. Like, for those of you who are right-leaning, who are watching this video right now, people like her are the reason that everybody calls you full of hate. That's the reason right there. Because most of the right-leaning people that I've met aren't actually particularly hateful. They have some questions, they have some objections, they have some issues. They're looking at it like, I have some strong feelings on this matter, and here's why. But people like her, just blindly hateful. And then I look at it as like, okay, that's why people on the left are running around saying that the right-wingers are all full of hate. It's not because right-wingers are actually all full of hate. It's because there are people like this lady running around. And she can't seem to shut herself up. She has to get that attention. She has to get those clicks. And so she is posting and posting and posting nonstop. I don't know if she ever logs off. And I mean, internet addiction is a real thing, and I can't see her behavior being remotely healthy. And that's the reason I just decided, like, I mean, do I really want to do a back and forth with this girl? She's not healthy. She's not well. I know men do this too. But I just see it. I see it in women. And I don't know if it's because I socialize with women and then I see them doing it, or if it's just more of a woman thing than a man thing. I think they get so emotional about whatever issue it is, particularly when it comes to protecting. We have to protect the children. We have to protect the children by transitioning them, and that way they won't commit suicide. Or we have to protect the children by taking them away from their parents so that they can't become indoctrinated and then transition, because that will make them, miserable. We have to protect the children. Like, she says she has kids, but I'm starting to really question that. I just look at it as like, I've seen too many women who get into this frothing, rabid fervor about politics, and I don't see logic. I don't see reason. I don't see the progression. Here we are at point A, we're going to go to point B, we're going to go from point B to point C, and if you track point C all the way back to point A, it all makes sense. If we go and trace our steps back, it still makes sense. We can go backward and forward on this line of logic. Everything makes sense. It's very clear how we got to this point. We might have made an incorrect step at some point, but generally speaking, it's pretty solid. It's a pretty stable bridge you can walk along. Some of these women I see, it's just like anger, emotion, feeling, and I'm just looking at it like, holy shit, dude, calm the fuck down. What the hell was that? And I mean, I see it on both sides of the fence. I see it with left-wingers, I see it with right-wingers. Only thing they have in common is they're all women. And I'm looking at it like, dude, can I just join the other camp already? I don't want to transition. I don't want to be transgender. I don't want to be gender fluid or anything. I just want to like sneak into the other camp and kind of huddle down and look around at all the men and be like, can I camp out here with you guys? Is that okay? Like, I won't cause any trouble. Just don't send me back over there. Those people are crazy. And then I look at the incel community and it's like, oh, I see you guys have your own problems. I'll just escort myself out, okay? How many people out there are actually taking the time to say that all individuals, regardless of how nasty they might be, should be dealt with fairly and justly? There should be justice for all. Sounds kind of familiar. Where have I heard that before? And it should be kind of uniform across the board. What's fair for me is fair for you. It doesn't matter if I'm a billionaire. I should be held accountable for my actions. It doesn't matter if I'm white or black or male or female or transgender or not transgender. It should not matter. My actions are my actions, and I should be held accountable for my actions. And that goes in both directions. I shouldn't be punished if I'm doing the right thing, and I shouldn't be rewarded for doing the wrong thing. I just think that people are being really short-sighted sometimes because they're so interested in... I think we've moved past my team versus your team into the realm of my team is almighty and your team is all bad, and so your team needs to be punished. We got to punish you guys. And I see that on both sides of the board. You're part of the other tribe. Let's punish you. Just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then, of course, everybody hates the centrists who are sitting there looking at the ping pong going, holy shit. Nobody likes a centrist. And sadly, I am a centrist. I will admit to that. I will say that I am a centrist, which means everybody can hate me. That's kind of the point of being a centrist. At the same time, I think the reason I like being a centrist isn't because I'm too cowardly to commit to one side or the other. I think it's because it gives me a clearer vantage point. Because at this point, it's just... people live in separate realities. And I've talked to people on both sides of this spectrum, and it's like completely different versions of reality. Completely different. And it's mind-blowing. And this lady, I mean, she clearly lives on one side of the spectrum. Everything she posts about, one side of the spectrum. And I don't think she even understands what a centrist is. I don't think she's capable of wrapping her head around it. It's like, wait a minute, so you're not far left, but you're not agreeing with me. Yeah, you're all bad. You're all bad. You're just bad. It's not even that I'm disagreeing with her. In fact, she's posted stuff that, I mean, I agree with her on sometimes. And some of it is actually even funny or clever. She occasionally accidentally gets something right. And... you know, I'd love to agree with her. I'd love to find that common ground, but unfortunately I am a tranny faggot, and so she will never like me, and she will always be trying to bait me, and I don't know if I really just want to kind of invite that sort of darkness into my heart. Like, yes, it's fun to fight with people on the internet, and I don't know whether I'm just tired or worn down or overwhelmed, or if I just have better things to do. It might just be that simple. I just have better things to do than get into petty fights with some bitch. As fun as it would be, you know, maybe I'll post one little thing. Maybe more than one little thing. Maybe a couple little just bitchy things to say. After seeing enough of the shit that she's posted, like even this comment right here, I was like, oh my God, I really am talking to an NPC. Either she's trying to drum up internet drama. She might be a left-winger. She might be so cartoonishly right-wing that she's actually a left-winger in disguise who's just trying to drum up drama and cause infighting. It could be that. I mean, the good news is she's some crazy stranger on the internet, so I don't have to worry about CPS showing up at my door and being like, we're here to take your kids. Why? Oh, because you're a tranny faggot. I don't think it works like that. I'm not upset by anything she said. I'm just kind of, I don't know. It's making me think, so now I'm going to post this video. Anyway, somebody's making a lot of noise. I'm going to call it quits. I hope you are all in good health, and I will talk to you guys later.